One thing I say to everybody is get a therapist. Like, we all need a therapist, especially business owners, because one of the things that is going to get challenged continuously is your perception of self, your self-worth, who am I to do this work? Anything, small T traumas are going to show up, like big T traumas. I'm hopefully you're doing some work on those already, if that's been the case. It all comes up, like your business is a massive mirror to your psychology.
Welcome to Your Mind, Your Business, the podcast that dives into the real grit of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Carina McLeod, founder and fitness fanatic. And today we have a special guest, Kirsty Lewis from the School of Facilitation. Welcome, Kirsty.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, we've already been chatting, so We've been getting to know one another, which is great. So I think this is going to be definitely an exciting conversation. So I'm really keen to just first off share with the audience a bit about who Kirsty is today.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to hit rewind and find out about your whole entrepreneurial journey. So who is Kirsty?
That's a great question, isn't it? Like, all of us start with a label. I am a founder. I am a sister, a best mate, a geek when it comes to marker pens and post-it notes. I am someone who can talk for hours about how to design and then facilitate amazing workshops that create change. Like you, I love my sport. We've just been talking about that in terms of crazy challenges, whether it's a half Ironman or racing across the Atlantic on a small race boat or skiing down Big Blacks. I'm also, that's me. But I run my own business, and I have done since beginning of 2008. Never thought that would happen. So I think when we go back, I'll be saying the younger version of me had no idea this was coming.
That's really interesting, because I mean that seems to be a common thing actually with a lot of business owners. Is actually, did you really think that you were going to go into business at the start? So I guess we'll hit rewind then, and to really understand what was your career before, and what really triggered you into creating your own business?
Good question. So I am definitely a product of my parents, and I want to rewind to them. They were both born in 1948. So if you use your brain, they are the product of World War II. So they wanted the best for me and my brothers, and we were all born in the 70s. So we were told from a very young age, you go to school, you get your GCSEs, you get your A-levels, you go to university, you get a job in the graduate market, you then buy a house, you get married, you have a dog, 2.4 children, done. So this was the sort of drill and unconscious messaging that I had all through my teenage year, like from 7 to teenage years to university. So I did everything up to getting the graduate job, and I started in the drinks industry. I was very, very lucky post-uni. I got a job with Bass Brewers, who are now owned by Coors, Molson Coors. And then I went and worked for Guinness, and I was in the commercial team. So I was in sales. I never wanted to be in sales. In my head, your British listeners will get this, the double glazing salesman came into my mind, or the car salesperson. I was like, oh, I don't want to be a salesperson. It feels disingenuous. However, I ended up in account management and actually realised it's about building great relationships. And then Guinness morphs into Diageo, which is the big drinks conglomerate, and they own amazing brands like Johnny Walker Black Label, or Baileys, or Pimm's for the UK, Guinness, obviously, Smirnoff. And I just got to work for them for 8 years and had the most amazing opportunities, and ended up in a global sales role, which brought me to learning how to design and then train sales workshops. And it was in April 2007. I've got very clear, there was a date, it was around the 7th, because I wrote it down. A friend of mine invited me to a workshop he was testing, and it was at the Queen's Club in London. And I arrived on my bike, rocked in, very casual. And as the workshop started, they're like, so what's the outcome you want to achieve in life? And literally, Carina, I was like, what? I'm in a global role. I play hockey every weekend. I party really hard. I'm living in London. Life is good. But I wrote this really facetious outcome down, which was, it is April 2009, and I am an NLP and sales trainer and coach, and I earn £5,000 a month. And I just thought that was the most ridiculous statement, never would come true. by the end of the workshop, I'm cycling back to where I lived, just outside of Clapham Junction. And I ring one of my bestest buddies, an Australian, Simone, and I won't do her accent. But I said to her, hey, I think I want to leave Diageo and I want to like become this trainer and sales coach. And she was just like, matey, she's like, oh, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think it'd be awesome. And that is where it truly started, because I was so convinced I was going to stay in the corporate world. I was going to work my way through the ranks, even though I was feeling pretty uninspired and unhappy at that time. I now look back. I didn't realize it when I was in it. And that basically, that one workshop started like the unraveling and a rebuilding process that I went through during 2007, working with coaches and talking to key people and mentors and friends around, okay, so what do I want to do? What is important to me? And that's how it all started.
Was it quite scary, that moment of realising? Because when you're in the corporate world, there's you feel like you're secure. You feel
Absolutely.
Like the rug's never going to be taken from under your feet.
Absolutely. And this was my choice. So this wasn't, so this was pre-redundancy era, pre-being able to get a payout. So I was like, oh, I want to do something different. And no one else had done this. Like no one I knew in the corporate world, my friends, had left and set up their own business, and especially doing something that I was proposing that I wanted to do, which was training and coaching and development. So I reached out to key people that were already doing it that I knew of and said, hey, can I have a conversation with you? That was one thing, and I'd recommend that to anyone. I also worked with a coach to really examine my values and beliefs, because many of your listeners will know that if you don't know what your values and beliefs are, it doesn't matter what behavior or what skills you learn, you need to have you need those clear deep down, because they're the things that create change in our ways of being and doing. So that really helped. I didn't talk to my family about it early on because I knew they're risk adverse. Like I've told you, they want me to go and get like the corporate jobs, Bless Dad, he did say to me when I finally told him 3 months after I'd made my plans, he was like, oh, does that mean you're going to lose your BA gold card? Because I was traveling so much, I was at that sort of status. And I just remember looking and going, yeah, most likely. So it was scary. And I look back now and I go, okay, I think I did some of the things right in that I did my work. I sorted my shit out at that point. But obviously it's a forever peeling that onion, like doing the do. So yeah. And then I remember resigning on my boss and sort of pushing an envelope across the table and him just looking at me, the Liverpudlian, and just going, what? Like, you're leaving? I was like, yeah, I'm giving you 3 months notice because I also had some amazing business trips coming up. I want to see this project out. So I left at Christmas 2007.
So it's a big step. So then you've got this idea and you know what you want to do. But I'm guessing there's this period in between where you've got to make that happen, where I guess the clients it's not necessarily rolling in from day one.
Correct. So one of the things I did do though, before I even left the corporate paycheck, so in the world of training and development, there's lots of solo people running their business. There's also medium and large size training companies. So I went and met a lot of medium sized training companies and got interviewed by them. So I was then on their books we call it an associate, you might call it contractor, subcontractor. So I knew already that I had these relationships in place, that the work would come, and I just needed to go and do some work, like work placement, shadowing. And so I saved up enough money to cover myself for like the 4-month period before I knew I'd even see anything being paid.
That's really organised, actually.
Actually, I look back and as I say that, I'm like, wow, that is very organised of me. But I do think you have to. Otherwise, you get catapulted out of corporate life. And you said something earlier, like it's quite safe. I called it leaving the Diageo Duvet. Because suddenly I had to work out, how do I pay myself? Like, I remember ringing my accountant about 4 months in when I knew I had some money in the bank and saying, when can I pay myself? And he was like, Kirsty, he was a big Irish guy, you can pay yourself whenever you want. Just don't take anything that's your VAT. I was like, oh, and make sure you save some tax money. Oh, okay. And that was just revelatory. Telephones, setting up your phone, setting up your computer. I never had to do any of that. Like, I had no idea what to do. Admittedly, I had some useful friends. That's what I'd say to anyone setting up, like, find your useful friends who can help you.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, definitely. Because you've got that experience. You've got experience in sales, and then you mentioned about training. But there's the one part that's missing in business is there is no playbook as such.
Yeah.
Of where you also have to wear every different hat
Oh my
under the
God.
sun.
And I didn't truly appreciate that to begin with. And also we're in 2007, 2008. So I'm a little bit older in that 2007 is when Facebook started, people. 2007 is when LinkedIn started, because I was one of the first people to sign up, I now realise. And so the need to be in social media land wasn't there. However, the need for networking was, like, we did in person chatting and talking to people and like not being afraid to ask for help or like who needs some work doing, and sending out emails and waiting for no responses. So it was a slightly different marketplace as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about sending out emails and not getting any responses. So you've already got an idea by being an associate or contractor. Was that as plain sailing as you kind of planned, or were there those knockbacks that you might not have anticipated?
In terms of in the contracting, yeah, definitely, because I think it's very easy, because when you're first starting out, there's a bit of self-worth and value, like these inner beliefs, and like, am I good enough? Do people want me? And therefore we often say yes to a lot of work, and then you do the work and you're like, oh, that's so not the work I should be doing. And I've said yes for the money and not because of my capability to do it, or it's the right subject or the person I'm working with. So there were a couple of times I'd say there was a mismatch of people I'd gone to do some work for and with. And as soon as we started working, I'd be like, oh yeah, that relationship isn't right. So that was one thing that was tough. I think also then I went the other way. I got really comfortable working for one company, and they were brilliant. They gave me so many opportunities, and that was great. Until I accidentally hacked them off by writing an article on LinkedIn, which at the bottom of it, a good call to action, which is, I am a coach for facilitation trainers. And for some reason, they took umbrage to that.
Really?
And said I was stealing their business. They're a sales training business.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't stealing their business.
No.
But the owner got very upset. And then slowly over 6 months, all my associate work disappeared.
Wow.
And that was around 2015, 2016. However, as many of us know, though, when gaps appear in our diaries, it's creating that space for something else to come. And bizarrely, Diageo came back to me. I'd done no work for Diageo after leaving them, which sounds a bit weird because a lot of people leave and then go straight back in to businesses. And they came to me with a really awesome project around sales and coaching and training. And that just suddenly took on a life of its own and gave me the confidence that I could do a lot of my own direct to client work.
Did that knock your confidence when you lost all those?
I remember talking at the time. I had a French boyfriend, Guillaume. He was so, oh my God, opinionated. But he'd be like, "Zut, Kirsty, what's the fuck? What's the problem? Like, go find other work," because he was a contractor as well. And I was just like, yeah, but I've been working with this company for like 8 years. Like, it's been super reassuring and I'm really good at what I do for them. And suddenly it's like, oh, I've got to go and find my own clients. But it was around that time as well. So just go backwards again, 2011, my mum passed away of cancer. And I probably stayed in the associate role too long, but I called it plug and play. It was comforting. I didn't have to like think a lot, so I didn't process the death. But my mentor 2 years later said, I don't think you've processed your grief. I think you need to do some work. And she introduced me to an amazing coach, started to do some really deep family system work. And from there, School of Facilitation was born, actually. So SOF is only 10 years old.
Oh, amazing. So you went into the coaching first and then it's interesting because it's like the opportunity then comes, as you say, when you've got that quiet period. Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned like self-worth and self-belief. Did that sort of come into play at that time?
I think, firstly, the questioning of self-worth, like, well, if someone doesn't want me, am I good enough? And then like going, but I actually want to do my own thing. Oh my God, can I actually do that? And is this, so School of Facilitation is all about supporting either in-house learning and development teams, trainers, leaders, and freelancers in their, it's really niche design, delivery, facilitation skills. And I was like, do people really want that? Like, am I going to be able to make a living being that
Yeah.
niche? And the answer is yes, by the way, but it was one of those moments of, but can I do it?
Yeah.
But I don't think the self-worth question goes away. I
Yeah.
think we're always working on it.
And it's interesting though, there's that point where, you've kind of you've been pushed into this direct part, but then at the same time, you've been in a sort of in a sales place where almost sales is your strength, right? So you're being pushed into doing then direct sales, I guess, for your own business.
And it feels really different to like coaching. Don't they say we teach what we need or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, having to do my own direct sales. I love client conversations though.
Yeah.
I find them very easy to like sit, ask them loads of questions, truly understand their needs, and then propose or make some suggestions of what a great solution can be. And I didn't realise that isn't true for everybody.
Yeah, definitely not. But I guess so. You're in this place now where you're right. I'm going to get direct sales. I've created the School of Facilitation. I'm guessing, just sort of saying that, it all sounds like it's all plain sailing.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you've had some real highs. Is there a real knockback that you remember?
One thing that's coming to my head, so I either work with corporates or the freelancers. And I remember the day I was running the first in-person workshop for the freelancers. And I got off a bus on Chancery Lane and burst into tears because I was really scared that I was going to be found out. And what I meant by that was, in my head was like, oh, but what I've got to teach and share is not of value to these people. And I remember ringing a really good friend, Sarah, just going, I don't think I can do this. She was like, come on, get in there. You know what you've got to offer is the right thing. Because people were paying me, and that felt like, and it was in my head, their own money. And I was like, oh, I'm selling B2C, business to consumer. I've had a reframe on that in the last 2 years is I think I'm selling into other entrepreneurs or enterprises. So an awesome woman, Laura Payne Stanley, gave me the language of B2E. So you're selling business to entrepreneur, business to enterprise. And I was like, yeah, I'm not selling to the end consumer. Because my head got all wrapped up that it's their personal money that they're spending to come and hang out with me. And then I'd be like, I can't charge those big ticket numbers that the powers that be tell me I should. And then I sort of underplay everything, which is not the right thing. Whereas I can write a corporate proposal, put a big number down, and I'm okay. Which sounds a bit arrogant, but I can.
It's interesting, just that slight shift, and then you see it differently.
Yeah.
But I think, the fact that, and probably those that are listening, because you come across very confident in what you do.
Thank you.
And just hearing that there's a point where, you have those moments where you're in tears and you're questioning yourself.
And I think one thing I say to everybody is get a therapist. Like, we all need a therapist, especially business owners, because one of the things that is going to get challenged continuously is your perception of self, your self-worth, who am I to do this work? Anything, small T traumas are going to show up, like big T traumas. I'm hopefully you're doing some work on those already, if that's been the case. It all comes up, like your business is a massive mirror to your psychology.
And the therapist part is interesting, but I guess there's also this part of resilience that you need when running a business. And you mentioned about fitness and sport and everything. Is that kind of why you do some of those crazy challenges to help you sort of balance that out?
I think I do the crazy challenges because it's a stretch. And I go, can I actually do a half Ironman? So if anyone doesn't know what is included in a half Ironman, it's like 1.9k open water swim, it's 90 kilometers on the bike, and then it's a half marathon. So, I mean, I came in second to last, and I did it in like just 8 hours. I mean, some people do it in like 4. But for me, as I was saying to you earlier, it's about the training. And I do my best thinking when I'm running, swimming, like on the bicycle, and it just helps me process. And even now, like, every day I do some form of fitness, whether it is yoga or it is a run or it's weights. I have to do something because it sets me up for the day. Like, and I do it in the morning. I find it hard to train at night, and I'm not one of those people that can do that. And I think if we're not, so one of the things I talk about, like in School of Facilitation, is the you of your business model, and you've got to look after yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because if you're not covering all those off, like if you're not firing all cylinders, well, your business isn't either.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess that's where it takes its toll, is that you know, people think sometimes when running a business, you're sitting there and everything's all right because look, you've got other people helping you out and doing other things, but it takes a mental toll.
And there are times that I've probably, we use the language now of burnout, don't we? And there are times that I've probably taken myself to that edge. But I'm so bloody optimistic, Carina, that I'm just like, oh, I'm fine. I mean, how British? Fine. And I probably was sort of on the verge of a breakdown or a break. Maybe a breakthrough, as people then say. But we used to have a membership, and I felt like there was an imbalance, that I was giving lots and people weren't like enjoying it, or I questioned myself, like, am I doing the right thing? And so I was doing lots of extra work. I do run 3 business models, which I'm told is a bit crazy because I have a corporate business model. I have the community and the collective, which are lots of open classes. And then this year I put on a festival for facilitators and trainers, and we're doing it again next year. So yeah, they're all 3 very different kind of ways of working.
But I guess it goes back to what you were saying about with the races, like you're stretching yourself.
Yeah.
So you're doing almost the same, right, with your business.
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy it as well. Like, and that my commercial bros, and it's always the men versus the women, are like, Kirsty, let's look at your numbers. Well, the corporate makes you money, everything else you lose money. I'm like, yeah, but where do I get the most happiness?
Yes.
And they're like, then in that case, you need to start charging more. I'm like, and then the whole self-worth, can I charge more, comes in.
Oh, fascinating. But the bit where you mentioned about the burnout.
Yeah.
Was there any signs, like how did you know that you were hitting that point where actually you can't do everything?
Yeah. Tired, a lack of energy to maybe even go and do my training, for sure. I suddenly eat badly. Can down a whole tub of Ben & Jerry's fish food without thinking. You know, that's not a good sign, is it? Then live with the regret the next day. Also just starting to fall out of love with the work and the conversations I was having. And it just feeling like the emotional roller coaster of some days it was great, other days I felt like rubbish. Yeah, that's probably my signals to myself.
And how did you get yourself out of that? Because we talk a lot about burnout, but like you mentioned, breakthrough, which I thought was a great sort of spin on the words there, because there's so much focus on, oh, I'm burnt out, but then how do you recover?
So I think because I didn't realise I was probably in that space and I was on the edge of it, sometimes I keep adding things into my world. That's my problem. So I had to take something out. So in this instance, it was the membership. And I felt very guilty for closing the doors. But actually everyone was fine with it. They're like, no, it serves its purpose. We've taken what we need. And just taking things off the table for me is the right thing to do. And then weirdly starting more sport and activity helps me then like process and move through.
Yeah.
I think also, and it's something I've only worked out in the last probably 4 or 5 years, is like active rest. And as someone who loves her fitness, you'll know that this comes as a challenge to people who love their fitness, but you need a rest day. Now rest can come in 7, I've learned recently, like 7 different ways. Like you can have social rest, so you're with people but you're not like taxing your brain. You can have artistic rest, you can have physical rest, so like an element of movement but not necessarily stressing your system. I think being more consciously aware of that has definitely helped me. And then I love my sleep though, so that's definite priority in the whole world.
Yeah. Have you always been so self-aware?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'd need to ask my brothers. I think probably yes, but I definitely went down a rabbit hole in my late 20s, early 30s. And it just definitely, I remember reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it was 1999 because I can actually see where I was reading it and where I was living at that time in London, and just being like, wow, oh my God, this is awesome. And then the next one was Who Moved My Cheese, another old school classic. And then I just got to work with some amazing leaders at Guinness who just put us through very deep personal development workshops and programs that just sort of blew my head up. And I was like, okay, this is cool.
It's interesting because sometimes like that corporate part is a good grounding to some degree, not only from a knowledge and experience perspective, but as you say, that development support that sometimes, you know, people that going into a business that don't have that background are kind of thrown in and don't have that.
I do now look back. I mean, I don't know if other people on the podcast have spoken about this, that you sometimes look back and you go, oh yeah, actually I can see why I am and who I am and how I got here by looking backwards to come forwards.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about 2007, I think was when first with LinkedIn and Facebook. Of course, it's blown up now, and it's almost who can shout the loudest. Do you find do you get distracted and drawn into that?
Oh, God. So some people go to me on LinkedIn, oh, I can see, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a LinkedIn whore. Have you seen how many people I'm connected to? Like, I just made an effort over time to build my connections because I knew it would amplify my message. And it was an absolute tactical decision versus you hear other people going, I will only connect with you if I know you. And I'm like, yep, that's okay. That's your strategy. But mine is, I need even some of my old colleagues like, God, I just see you on LinkedIn all the time. And I'm like, good. That's really good. I need to be, it's about brand awareness. I mean, if that's one thing I learned about Guinness, you need brand awareness, and that's where your social media comes in. But where do people actually convert and buy? For me, it's often in our one-to-one conversations or through newsletters and word of mouth in my industry. So people go, oh, have you heard of School of Facilitation? Have you heard of SoFest? You need to go and talk to Kirsty. So I get quite a few people just messaging me going, so-and-so said we need to come and talk to you. Okay. So social media for me, and I love Instagram, because I just play it out on stories, like my life. And again, it's just awareness, brand awareness. And I've got no shame. I'm a massive extrovert. I'll cry if I need to. And I have done, like last year when we were doing SoFest, I suddenly it was a Friday afternoon and I was looking at the numbers. I was also in a masterclass, I was meant to be doing some learning. And I suddenly had this dawning realization that the spreadsheet I'd been working from was reporting the figures incorrectly. And the gap was larger than I thought. And I literally just burst into tears. I was like, oh, it's 30K we need to find.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're quite comfortable with sort of sharing then and you see the benefits from a brand awareness and personal branding, then you don't get distracted by competition or other people in your space.
So actually what I find really delightful about the world of training and development, it sounds wanky, but quite an inclusive space, and people are really supportive of one another. So there are a couple of other businesses out there that do the same as I do, but we all just talk, and it's not about fixing prices or anything. It's like how's business? Like, what are you working on? Like, how can we help you? And I know I come with a very big abundance mentality, and it's a big value of mine. And so other people have that. So sometimes I do absolutely, like everybody else, look at what they're doing and go, oh, how did you get that contract? Oh, I want to do that. But then I genuinely always have this belief that the right clients find me at the right time. And it works out. It generally works out.
Is there anything that, like, today, from previous experience or just in terms of what you see moving forward and how you want to grow your business, that scares you?
Just myself getting in my own way. I've really noticed that. I thought you were going to ask me a different question, like, what would you do differently? But I'm like, what would I have done sooner? It's like, actually just have bloody self-belief, and not in an arrogant way, because I'm not arrogant. And one of the reasons I didn't sort of stand and like bang the drum for everyone needs to learn to be a better facilitator or a better workshop designer is I didn't want to appear arrogant. I didn't want to appear like I was blowing smoke up my own arse, which actually probably is a bit detrimental, because you need to have some element of inner confidence and just talk and walk your walk. You don't need to be like, let me go back the other way. I think there's some people out there who are influencers in their own lunchbox, and they bang on about, I don't know, funnels or how to market yourself or how to do X, Y, Z. And I've lifted the lid on some of those people, followed them, and then gone on some of their events and just gone, oh my God, that was rubbish. And what they're brilliant at is marketing, but they're not so great at some of the execution. But they have devout followers that are sort of all praying at the altar of ...
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be that person, to be adulated like that.
Yeah.
But weirdly, people are like, oh, you're Kirsty. I'm like, hi. So, yeah.
So you sort of gradually, as you say, word of mouth, and gradually build on that. But I guess now you know that you can play on it more.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's back to where we started the conversation about doing your inner work is I am showing up authentically and I will just be me, and I'll never make a claim that I can do something for your business that I haven't done for my own business, or for your workshops or for your team to be better at creating engagement. And so I what also happened, Carina, is I tipped 50 last year and I was like, bloody hell, come on, Kirsty, get a grip. And if it's not you who is the person to share these messages in the world of facilitation, who will?
Yeah, definitely. And you talked about sort of that the self-belief part. Do you also have it where if you want to grow, or let's use the festival as an example, where there might be a skill set that's missing, how do you manage that? Do you question if you've got the right capabilities to move forward, or do you tap into other people?
Good question. Yes, absolutely. I've always said I will pay for what I cannot do myself. So back when we first started, I would get someone to help me with my tech, because I had no idea how to do that. And I was happy to pay for it. I had no idea how to build a website. Also, me building a website is going to be totally chaotic. So again, it's not worth my pain. So around the festival, I knew my bit was bringing the audience, and I know how to run events, but I needed a good project manager to keep us all on track. And so I work with an amazing project manager where Tony Finnemore, her thing is creating festivals. That is her gig. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pay for that because you know what you're doing. Like, she does a brilliant job of working with the site, which actually is down in Essex, and manages all the vendors and manages like that team to like get the process flowing. So I do think if you're ever thinking, oh, like I'm on my own in my business, and there's certain things in your business that's like either eating a lot of your time or becoming a massive distraction, do pause and think, what's the benefit of me paying for someone to come and help me? So like my finance manager, Victoria, we've been working together for 14 years and she still laughs about how she left my then flat in London with a bag of receipts. And this is a classic story. Like she does my finances for me. Oh my God, like thank you. Like getting us on vendor systems into the corporate world, like that level of detail. No way would my brain cope with that.
I think that's great though, because it's knowing what your strengths are, and that's where I see a number of business owners where they get just pulled down and pulled into the weeds because they're trying to do absolutely everything, of which some aren't their skill set, so it takes them twice as long. Is there a part where, and often the thing that holds people back is almost one, asking for help and just sort of realising that isn't their skill set, and two is paying for that.
Yeah.
Does that, because sometimes you don't always get the immediate return.
Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts that go through my head. So there's sometimes a fear of like going, and I've been thinking about this, like, oh, I need to pay for X, Y, Z, but can I afford that? But my brain also then argues, but if we don't work with somebody like a particular coach, or I'm working with a great strategist at the moment, I won't move forward. So sometimes I have to invest in me in the business to like take it up another level. But that's quite scary. But I think that's a classic space that business owners sit in. It's like, oh, where do I put my investment? I think there's also this thing about letting go. So I often have this Frozen playing around in my head of let it go, because like you can't do everything on your own. You need a good team around you, and it pays dividends to bring a team along. The bit that I find tricky still is having a team of freelancers or people that they're not on my payroll. And how do you engage that? It's a different kind of way of working. Like, how do you engage them to really want to work with you on the business, even though you're just paying them an hourly rate, and you're just a tick box exercise for them?
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting point in two ways. First is the investment part, because some people are real risk takers.
Yeah.
I chat to some entrepreneurs and then some that are completely not. Would you are you quite comfortable with taking a risk?
Oh, I take a long while to get to things, and then when I do it, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And then I just go, no, we need to do this. And then I know it's going to make a difference. I genuinely know that like the stuff that I'm doing right now will move the dial next year.
Yeah. And then you mentioned about freelancers and everything. So you're working with a number of freelancers. How do you manage that from an engagement? Because that's always, I've
As in how we work
experienced that.
together.
Yeah.
So I will always have a weekly call or a bi-weekly call with them, and we check in on a Monday and like, right, what's on the agenda, what needs to be done. I sort of kill with kindness as well. That's my sort of way of working. We've got, for example, next week we've got a team day to work on SoFest, so we're actually coming together. So I think there's benefit to eyeballing and working in the same room. I'm old school like that. Yeah, we can work virtually, but I think there's something about the energy.
Yeah.
And I think it's, if you have got a big team of freelancers, it's like, how do you bring your team together in person at least once a year?
Yeah.
To have that connection and that humanness.
Yeah, definitely. And with the festival, I guess you've got a certain target that you want to go and hit.
It's a good question. It's an interesting observation. I think the target last year, because it was year one, I keep saying last year, it was this summer, was to make it happen. Next year is to break even. So I was, what I did last year when I said, right, I'm going to build a festival for facilitators and trainers, I talked about it very openly and really transparently. So it's all over LinkedIn. I shared the finances every single month and said, right, this is where we're at. This is how much it's costing. Because I think a lot of people go, oh, a festival, oh, it can't be that much. And you're like, no, 3 days, 2 nights, covering all the food, covering the glamping. It's around, for 100 people, 90 grand.
Wow.
And then I've got people going, well, you need to pay me as a speaker. I'm like, nope. The speakers are actually paying just a regular ticket price to be here, even the workshop host, because I still covered 12 grand of the cost. And I said, I'm happy to do that. But I don't think people realise what it takes to make it happen and build it over a year. But then just the financial risks. And I think we see things like Ideas Fest, Biz Fest, take any of the big events. I would love to have like Nicola Peake and all those guys and girls, and just say, like, we know it's a financial risk, massive one. And that's what kept me up more than curating the 3 days. I mean, we got to the 3 days and so many people kept coming, are you okay? I'm like, oh, fuck, this is the easy bit, people.
Yeah.
I do this for a living. Like, I stand up, I can host a festival. That really didn't frighten me, but that might frighten other people. But it's the financial risk.
It's a financial risk. Did you think that at the start? Because often when you have big ideas, you're like, yeah, let's do it. And it isn't really until you start getting into it, then you're like, whoa, this is a little bit bigger than I thought.
That's a good question. So I've had this idea for SoFest since 2018. And just as I was plucking up the courage to start talking about it, COVID came. Then I did have a conversation with a group online about it in 21, and we were like, we just cannot do it this year because everything's getting sort of open, closed. So I just left it. And then we got to the summer of 23, and I can't even tell you what the trigger was, but I think I just, in Kirsty Classic, declared on social media, right, next year, I'm going to build a festival. No, 2024. And we're going to make it happen. But what was different versus 2018, I knew I had more of credibility in the marketplace. We had a bigger community. I had a bigger network. I mean, I've always been a prolific networker and know everybody, and I'll be like, oh, let me matchmake you. Let me introduce you to so-and-so. But I look backwards now and I go, oh yeah, that was the right time. Because I think if I tried to do it in 2018, I think it might have been harder than I expected it to be.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like you mentioned about the targets, because usually people go, right, our target is we're going to make sure that we fill the room with 1,000 odd people, but you've taken it in different steps.
Well, I knew that, so the ticket price is £1,500. And I know that some people it's like a drop of a hat, but for others it's a bit like, oh, that's a stretch. So for me, it was about year one was proving that it worked as a concept. And by getting people in the field, so this was the other thing, I did not want it in a conference centre. It is under tarpaulin, it's in big teepees, and you're glamping, and there's a beautiful lake you can go swimming in, and there's yoga and a silent disco and all the things that you go, oh, that's a space to learn in. It's like,
Yeah.
your brain will thank you for it.
Yeah.
Like inspiring speakers. So I knew I also had to invest in a really good photographer, videographer. And we worked with an amazing guy, Taz, and then captured everybody thinking and feedback and what's come out of it to prove it as a concept. Because in my world of learning and development, everything happens at the NEC, or it happens in big hotels in London, or at the Excel Centre, and it's just really super corporate.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about proof of concept.
Yeah.
And I wasn't as daft as going, all right, I don't need to make any money. No, I definitely wanted to make money. And I also ideally wanted 100 people. We got 75.
That's still good.
I know.
That's good.
And I've got to remind myself, there was some good stuff going on there, Kirsty.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, proof of concept when you've got an idea like that. And you mentioned something interesting earlier about you kind of got three business models. So you've got the corporate part, which brings in the money. And then you've got these two other areas that probably, as you say, you're not necessarily doing that. But because how do you, with the corporate part, because you strike me as someone that's got, as you say, you like to stretch yourself, you've got lots of energy, and the corporate part might not necessarily be giving you that.
I think it's the projects that come up that I'm asked to deliver. And so in classic language, I train trainers to train. But then some clients have brought me projects, which is, can you create people that we're going to call master trainers who understand everything that you do, Kirsty, but can you train them so that they can then train our people internally to be trainers? I mean, it's a bit of a a head fuck, I admit. But it's like, and I literally remember looking at this Dutch lady and I went, so you want me to teach your people in 6 months all that I have learned to do in 20 years? And she just went, yes. I was like, oh, okay. So it stretches like that keep me going. And I love it when an HR director or a learning and development director brings me that as a challenge.
Yeah.
That's one. I still do some associate work myself to keep myself sharp. And when you get put in with big, like FTSE 100 clients, and they're like, right, we've got a 3-day leadership meeting and we need to get all our leaders thinking and coming up with the next 3-year strategy, that stretches my brain as well. So it's that way. That's where I get my stretch.
Need to be challenged. And you mentioned about sleepless night earlier about with the festival, with the finances. Does anything else within your business give you those sleepless nights? You mentioned needing your sleep. So.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it is. And women of a certain age are going to get this. And I can't believe it's happened, but just bloody hormones kicking in and out. Gents, if you've got a partner and she's going through the perimenopause, be kind, because just waking up in the middle of the night, like for no reason, is really irritating. And I am the person of like, I just have to have my Kindle on charge. That wakes me up. And it's not necessarily the work stuff. It's just hormones. It's really annoying.
Does your brain switch on then? Because then you're awake.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And I now go, I sort of thank myself that I've woken up, but you can go back to sleep. And so I know if I allow myself to start thinking about work, or if there's a concern, it will just exacerbate. And I've done that, as many of us have done many a time. Now I'm a bit like, just read your book and like ignore that little Twitter in your head.
Yeah.
You have to be able to drop back off to sleep.
Yeah. And to be able to, as you say, wake up the next day feeling...
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to be mentally there, emotionally there and everything.
A really good girlfriend who's also a doctor and works in the sort of menopause hormone space said she heard a great bit of advice, which is if you do wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes it's really easy to count forward like, oh, I've only got 3 hours left before I've got to get up, and oh my God, I'm going to be really tired today. She's like, actually, if you say to yourself, this is going to be the best 3 hours sleep I've ever had, and you reposition it as it's going to be good quality sleep, she said that apparently helps.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, definitely. Because you often think that, oh no, I'm going to be tired. And once you've framed your mind as in I'm tired, then
of course you are.
You've already kind of almost
presupposed.
Exactly, definitely. And so if you were to go back to the start of your journey, what would you do differently?
Oh, a couple of things, some internal and some external. So internally, I would trust myself more and know that what I was talking about was hitting the nail on the head. I would probably utilize social media more, because what I didn't do was go, hey, let me teach on there, which maybe I would have done more of that. But to do that, I had to get out of my own way. What I wouldn't do differently, and what I would do the same, is still connect with people, be myself, be human, have conversations. And I make absolutely, I don't, some people go, God, you talk to lots of people, you go on lots of podcasts. I'm like, no, I want to have good conversations, and I want to share what we do, like to help other people be better at what they need to be better at. So versus sitting in corporate meetings or, strategizing.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Be true to you. And on that, just one sort of final question before we wrap up. Do you feel that you were true to you when you were working in corporate?
No, but I didn't realise that because I thought that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise, you know how you hear some people going, oh, I was a round peg in a square hole and I knew I wasn't in the right job. I never knew I was in the wrong job. I enjoyed it because I'm really sociable and I had lots of fun and I got loads of amazing opportunities and I was doing cool stuff. But now I look back and go, well, maybe you did need to do all of that corporate life to know what it's like, to be able to have the experiences. And there was no way my 22, 23-year-old self could have just gone straight out into the world of work because I didn't know that this kind of role existed in the world.
Yeah.
So I had to live in the corporate world first to go, oh, this is a thing.
Definitely. And that experience has paid off, which you now have a successful business,
Thank
right?
you. Yeah.
And so congratulations on your business, and also for going and having that confidence to then go, right, we're going to go create a festival, we're going to go and do this, because that's all exciting stuff. But as you say, it's not something that just happens naturally. You go through a bit of a journey, as you say, an internal journey and external as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. You've been an absolutely awesome guest, Kirsty. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Same here.
And I'm sure we'll be talking some more anyway.
I hope so.
And thank you everyone for listening today. Love this episode? Don't miss out. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Instagram as we continue to keep it real.